viewers, my name is Saddam Hassan.
And I am Tayyiba Hassan.
And we are from AMZ One Step. Now, we work specifically with Amazon brands, creating creatives for their listings. And we've worked with over 4,000 brands and have created over 100,000 images so far. And today, we're going to be talking about the best practices you need to be creating to create your perfect listings on Amazon. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to approach creatives, what the role of creatives is in order to make an outstanding brand on Amazon, listing images, your video, listing content, A+ content, and then we're going to be diving into a little bit more detail on brand story, A+ premium content, how to go about doing a product photo shoot, and then how to upload those assets on Amazon. So let's start with approach towards creatives. Now, a lot of the content around creating listings on Amazon is basically working the algorithm. But I would like to encourage you to instead focus on the shoppers. See, it derives from the core values of Amazon themselves, one of their core values being customer obsession, meaning if you prioritize the customer, you will eventually prioritize the algorithm itself.
The natural approach, would be to show off the product and its features, but the algorithm does not care about your product. It will always prioritize the customers and their behavior. So your approach to creating a listing should be to focus on the customer, and the algorithm will prioritize your listing. This is because conversion is a strong signal for the algorithm to rank the product on keywords. The better your listing converts, the higher your listing will rank.
So how does that translate over to Amazon? If you think about it, shoppers basically find you from the search page, and they're making decisions amongst different listings that they see on page one. So the main things that they're looking at is the main image, the price, the social proof, which is your reviews, ratings, and any badges that you get from Amazon. And then also, if there is an ad placement, they'll see a video pop up.
So the search page is where shoppers find you, but the product page is where they decide if they like you. There's plenty of opportunity to convince them because this is where the rest of your images and video gallery will be. Also your bullet points, your A+, or your text description.
So now you're going to be thinking, what is the role of creatives in order to make your brand successful on Amazon? Now, if you think about it, on the search page, the only things that you can influence is the main image, the title, and the video. And basically, shoppers are mostly looking at why your product should be the one that they should click on. So you should clearly illustrate through these three placements what your unique selling point is, or what is a key benefit that differentiates you from the competition.
So your product page is going to be the rest of your content, and you're going to use all of this to answer the burning questions of the buyer. This is where you will show how your product addresses the pain points of the customer and how it will add value to their life. So the search page piques interest, and the product page convinces them that this is what they're looking for.
Great. Now that we have figured out exactly what the role is, let's talk about what is the first step in the creative process, and that is research. Our team internally uses two main Helium software tools that helps us create the research that goes into the production. So the first thing is Listing Analyzer. Basically, you want to kind of review competitor images in bulk and figure out what are some of the features that competitors are using in their images. How are they visually presenting it? Have they missed any kind of information? Basically, you want to get as much edge over your competition as possible.
Another way to do this is to use the Review Insights tool. This is what's going to allow you to download the entire review data from any listing. So how to get ahead of the competition is to analyze the social proof, the reviews. How are we going to do this in bulk? Well, this is where AI comes in. You can use ChatGPT to analyze thousands of reviews in seconds. You can discover the customer pain points, the common uses, the problem areas of your competitors' products, and how you can position yours to be superior.
Now let's talk about what actually goes onto your listing. So the first thing is going to be listing images. Basically, you get 7 different placements that you can fulfill. And out of those, one needs to be your main image. You need to have a good combination of infographics and lifestyle. So first, let's talk about how the main image should look like. It has to be on a pure white background. It has to cover at least a minimum of 85% of the space. So there's not a lot of white space around it. And the dimensions should be at least 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Now you can go above that. We recommend doing 3,000 by 3,000 for better quality, but it has to be a square image. Now, outside of that, you also just need to show your product and your packaging. You can, however, create more graphical elements within the main image, but that goes a bit into the riskier territory. Now, you can do that, and I can explain that process a bit when we go over split testing. In certain categories, though, you can also use a lifestyle image as your main image. We don't have time to go into detail in this video, but as a rule of thumb, if you search on Amazon your main keyword and you see other competitors using lifestyle images, chances are that you can do that as well.
So you can technically add up to 9 images, but really only 7 slots show in the gallery. So shoppers will have to actually click to see your additional images. Take this listing, for example. You can see there's only 7 slots in the gallery. Let's go over some best practices. Now, we recommend uploading 7 images, or like how this listing is doing, 6 images and a video. When it comes to variations, if there's changes are only minor across your products, like color, size, or pack size, then we recommend just having a unique main image. But if the differences are huge, like design or utility, then the full set should be unique to each variation.
Now, next up is infographics. And there's a lot of different ways to approach infographics, but I like to encourage you by asking yourself 3 main questions. What is the feature? What is the benefit that you get from this feature? And can you help the shopper visualize that feature? Okay, so we're going to take a look at some examples here. The first one that we have open is a company called Dude Wipes, and they're pretty famous for their branding on Amazon. Now, the first example that we're going to see is an image by Dude Wipes. They're pretty famous for their branding on Amazon, and they do a really good job in creating their infographics. Over here, you can see the feature is the wipes are extra large. The benefit from that is it gets less messy to use them because they're large. And then we have a visual aid. They've done a pretty good job in making it humorous, but you can see the poop stains on the hand, and also a good representation with chocolate, which is just so that you don't gross out. But it's a good representation to help us visualize how that benefit looks like. Let's take another example. Over here, we have a water filtration system. And usually when you're purchasing something this technical, you want to basically prevent any hassle of maintenance and installation. And over here, we have the feature, which is hassle-free maintenance, but we also have the benefits. It only takes you 30 minutes to install. It has color code fitting. There's only a 3-second filter replacement needed, so it's an easy twist and pull. And in order to help us visualize it, we sometimes can even rely on text. So over here, you can see it's easier than changing a light bulb. So instantaneously, shoppers get a notification that it's so easy to maintain. One last example that we want to look at is from a supplement brand. And sometimes we get products where there are multiple features to call out, and it's really hard to cover everything within images. So what we do is we stack them up in one image. Over here, we see a supplement with multiple features and benefits. They're all called out in a very neat format so people can read it, but there's also visual presentation of how that wormwood supplement looks like. So you can see that it's very natural, it's made of natural ingredients, and people usually like that.
Awesome. Now let's get into some lifestyles. These are going to be the visual references that show the use of your product to the buyer. The best way to do this is to use visual references that helps buyers quickly understand the benefit. Now, we have a 3-second rule, which means any person that looks at this image should be able to understand the feature in about 3 seconds. Nowadays, we really only have a short attention span of about 3 to 4 seconds. Now let's look at this example with poop bags. If you were just to look at this image with just the text, you wouldn't be able to fully understand that feature. But because we see that visual reference of the bag full and not leaking, you can really understand that this is 100% leak proof. Now let's look at another example by Anchor, one of the top tech brands on Amazon. These guys have done a really effective job of using a claim backed up with a study to really reinforce the feature they're trying to show you, which is that it's a very fast charging product. And lastly, let's look at one example where we're showcasing the lightweight feature of a vacuum. If we just had the text again, you really wouldn't be able to understand the benefit of this feature. But because we're showcasing how lightweight it is by showcasing, a delicate woman holding the vacuum up, and it's also supported by subtext that shows you exactly why this feature would be beneficial in your life. You can carry it throughout your home easily.
Okay, so going back to the image gallery, we now know that we have about 7 slots available. So we want to maximize those 7 slots as much as possible. And if you're doing a video, you can have 6 images and then 1 video. Now, we do recommend creating an extra main image or 2. The reason we do that is because we're able to split test that on Helium 10's audience. And you can get feedback from actual participants that shop on Amazon and get really good feedback on what they liked or what they disliked about a particular image. So here's one example where we created 3 main images for a lounging chair, and we conducted a poll in our office. Out of 15 people that were present at the office, more than 10 people selected option B. But when we ran the poll on Helium 10's audience, what we found out was most of the people opted for option C. And it was really good feedback to hear. The main feedback that was popping up was people appreciated in option C. It was being shown in different angles, and they were able to get a better look of the product and make a decision from there. So you can see that feedback can be really crucial in order to understand that what works in our head might not be what the market prefers. So it's always good to get a second, third opinion from the market and move on from there.
So outside of the main images, you also have your listing content. Now, we're not going to get into too much detail as the listing SEO is going to be covered in a different module, but let's go over some best practices. So you've got your title, which majority of customers are going to see that first on the search page, and that's going to be about 80 characters displayed. Some would also see it on a competitor product page, which then would be 30 characters displayed. Every single word in the title is crucial, and we really want to lead with the most important information first.
So how do you go about formatting the title? You have to start with the main keyword. In order to get the main keyword, and if you're not sure, you can always run Cerebro on your top 4 or 5 most relevant competitors and see exactly what keyword sounds the most relevant and which one has the highest title density. Title density basically just shows you, out of all the page 1 listings, how many of the listings had that keyword in their title. The higher the number, the more the relevance and the more the likelihood that it would be your main keyword. After that, after the main keyword, you want to put the most crucial information first. So let's say if it's a multi-item set, you want to list down all the sets, items that are included in the set. If it's a product that has multiple quantities, let's say supplements or maybe disposable gloves, you also want to call out how much is the total quantity of the products. And then for the remaining space, you want to talk about all the unique features that are related to your product. Keep in mind, we don't want to talk about the benefits because the way people search on Amazon is feature specific. Outside of that, if you have variations, keep that in mind that they're going to display towards the end of the title, regardless of whether you include it or not. So if it's, let's say, a color, a size, or a pack, it would reflect on your title towards the end if you add that as a variation. Now, 2 things that we recommend to avoid is first, the brand name. This question pops up a lot whenever we talk about titles, is should we include our brand name or not? I would say if you have a strong presence of your brand and you have brand related searches on Amazon, then it's a good idea. Or if you have a brand that's good outside of Amazon, but is just recently being established on Amazon, it's a good idea to create the brand name and add it in the title. However, if it's not a big brand, we recommend to leave it out because it just confuses shoppers and deviates them from making that clicking decision. The other thing is avoid fluff at any cost. You want to make it as precise as possible. Again, we already talked about how every word in the title is crucial.
After the title, there's also the bullet points or the features. Here you can add up to 5 bullet points or 10 if you're brand registered, but we recommend keeping it short unless it's a technical product. Buyers only skim over the information, so again, avoid fluff as much as possible. Some of the best practices that we recommend are to list the benefit first, follow it by the feature. People buy with the emotional part of their brain. So talking about the feature activates the logical part. Help them visualize their life through the content as well. That is so that you can spark an emotional response from the shopper.
Great. And again, the format is very similar to how you would format an infographic. Basically, you want to lead with the benefit and then talk about the feature that creates that benefit. So, as an example, if it's a supplement and we're talking about supplement gummies, maybe the feature is, or the benefit is naturally delicious. And the feature could be it's made with XYZ ingredients and there's no artificial colors or flavoring. Something as simple as that.
Now, keep in mind, the voice of the writing has to be aligned with how the brand represents itself to its customers. Think of your brand as a personality. That personality has to resonate with your target audience. Who do you want to connect with? Write in a style that would resonate with them. For example, if you're marketing towards parents, you want to have an empathetic, caring, nurturing voice. If you want to cater to a younger audience, you might want to be bold, challenging, even using informal language.
So we've talked about images, we've talked about copy. Now let's switch to videos. So the typical video format is anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds explaining the main benefit, showcasing exactly the steps on setup or if there's any kind of assembly required, and then also social proofing. So that could be testimonials from different influencers, maybe an unboxing experience. Again, if you're using an influencer or a brand ambassador, or talking about any kind of statistics backed up by studies. These basically create more authority in your voice, in your videos, when you're trying to convince buyers to shop from you.
And did you know that you can add up to 6 videos, and each of those videos can have a thumbnail, a ratio of 16:9, similar to a YouTube video. And each of those videos also can have a title, about 60 characters. We recommend that this would be either your brand slogan or a key benefit that you're talking about in that video. So Amazon has an approval process, which can take up to 3 days for each video to get approved. So here are some of the best practices for videos. We recommend having a shorter 30-second edit to run as video ads and up to a longer video, up to 60 seconds for your listing video. For your ad video, we recommend just talking about one unique selling point or key benefit. Try to make it very text and visual focused because when it shows up on the page on Amazon, it will automatically be on mute unless the buyer engages with it and clicks on it. So if that video ad has a voiceover, we recommend adding subtitles. For your listing videos, this is where we recommend focusing on your other unique selling points. Even go over setup instructions if that's complicated, or show some social proof, or showcase all your other variations as well.
Great. Now you might be wondering, what should I do with the rest of the placements? Because we can add multiple videos on our listing. There is something called UGC content or user generated content that you can get directly from your customers. And there is a few ways to do it really quickly without paying anything for it. So one way is to add insert cards in your packaging, which basically gives them your social media handle. And once they get to the social media, you can ask them to tag you in any videos of them showcasing or using the product. You can also gamify that and take it a step further by incentivizing maybe a gift card or something if they submit their videos. And then you basically have a bunch of videos from users on your social media as well as on Amazon. Now you might be thinking, is that 100% compliant? It absolutely is, because we're not incentivizing them to leave a review and we're not asking them to make a purchase outside of Amazon. Everything is done within Amazon. All we're doing is leveraging that audience and bringing them to create more content for us. Here is an example of Goli, which is one of the top leading brands for supplements on Amazon. And they've done something similar where you can see they've created their main video with their brand slogan and the brand name. And then underneath that, in related videos, they have a bunch of videos that are user-generated content.
Now let's talk about A+. Well, A+ is the 7 modules of visual and text expanding on your product features. But you already covered that in your images, so why A+? Well, without it, you are limited to just describing your product with text. And like we mentioned before, nobody wants to read these days. Let's look at an example. Would you rather read this bulk of text, 3 to 4 lines? Or would you rather scroll through these visual images that help you understand the different features of the product? Now, I think the answer is pretty obvious. So not only is A+ content very visually engaging, but it also helps buyers ignore other distractors like other listings, and it re-engages them with your listing. A+ content is positioned right above the reviews. So when a shopper is scrolling down for that social proof, they're forced to go through your A+ content to get there.
Now, keep in mind, there is a bit of a requirement for A+ content to be unlocked. You need to be brand registered with Amazon. And in order to be brand registered, you have to have a trademark application or registered trademark with a country. Now, if you're selling in the US, what we recommend is going through USPTO, which is the government body of the US. And so with that, you get protection of your brand even outside of Amazon. But for brand registry, you can get a trademark registered or have an application with any country, and it would open up brand registry for you in any marketplace that you're selling in. So in order to get brand registered, all you need is to have a trademark application submitted.
Great. Let's talk about some best practices. So we recommend expanding on the features that you mentioned in your images and your video. These might be the technical product details that weren't covered in your images and your video. Or you can talk more about your brand and your personal story.
And keeping in mind, there are a lot of other modules available as well, such as the comparison chart. It's an excellent cross-selling or upselling opportunity because you can place different products from your catalog and people can compare which one they are leaning towards. And if you're unsure exactly where the customer overlap is between your main listings product and your other products in your catalog, go to brand analytics, and under that, go to market basket analysis, which shows you different items your customers have frequently bought together. And from there, you can basically see exactly what products would pair up nicely on the comparison chart.
Awesome. Now, for each module, you have the opportunity to upload alt image keywords, and these are indexed by Google, giving you more visibility. So one of the best practices that we recommend is just to make your A+ content flow visually and align with your brand guide. Treat it like one long banner and just follow simple design principles like the S-curve that, for example, in this case, naturally, the negative space created is an S-curve, and that makes your eyes naturally follow from top to bottom, forcing your shoppers to engage with your A+ content.
Great. So we've covered the core 4 elements of a listing: images, copywriting, video, and A+ content. Now let's talk about a different and special A+ content called the brand story. So it's sort of like a carousel display of different banners, and I like to call it a mini storefront within your product listing. So let's take a look at an example. So here's a brand story that is from Optimum Nutrition and is for their whey protein. If you can see, there is one core banner that's sort of in the background, and then they've got like a carousel display of banners that you can shop around with. So typically in these carousel banners, you can add maybe an About Us section where you talk more about your brand, maybe an FAQ section if there are questions that keep popping up on your product pages, or you can link them just similar to this one, where either if they click on the product, it's going to go onto the product pages, or if they click on the store, then that links back to your storefront.
So why opt in for a brand story? Well, your brand is what sets you apart, and it's what humanizes your brand. Nowadays, some niches are very saturated and there's a lot of competition with international buyers. So naturally, shoppers are very weary shopping online from unknown brands. And having a brand story is what connects you to your buyer's identity.
Awesome. Now let's talk about a more premium version of the A+ content called the premium A+ content. It is basically an added enhanced version of the basic A+ content and adds more versatility and more dynamic modules to your shopping experience. So a year or two back, Amazon realized that basically most of the shoppers now shop on mobile. In fact, the statistic was around 75% plus shoppers shopping on mobile. But when they shopped on Amazon, a lot of the A+ content just sort of was very cluttered and it wasn't a good shopping experience. So what they did was they made premium A plus content modules and it enhanced the experience on both desktop and mobile. Now, there is an eligibility criteria for that as well. You need to have more than 15 A plus content submitted in the past 1 year. And you also need to have a brand story on all your product ASINs.
So if you've got the A plus, why opt in for the premium A plus? Well, keep in mind, the goal of A plus is to engage shoppers, and premium A plus does exactly that. It's more engaging because it takes up more real estate. The images are wider. It's a better shopping experience on both desktop and mobile. And it captures your attention with a video. You can upload a video. We recommend up to 3 minutes. We recommend up to 15 seconds. With A+, buyers are encouraged to scroll down and try to get to the reviews, but Premium A+, actually stops them in their tracks and it encourages them to interact with modules left and right. You can show product details with hovering spots, and you can also easily display product features with carousels. Let's take a look at this example. Immediately, we can see that the images are much wider. When we scroll down, we have some interactive modules. You can hover over spots to get product details and get more information about the product.
Pretty fascinating, right? Now let's take a look at another example. Going back to the Optimum Nutrition's whey protein, over here, they're doing more of a video style format. Now, typically, this video is a little bit different from what you would see on your listing. So they've done about 2 videos, and this one is a very summarized version, 15 seconds. It's basically like a brand highlight reel, and you just want to showcase what your brand represents. So we've covered everything in the listing. Now let's talk about photography. There are 3 main ways to do photography, and the first one is stock photography. Okay, so in this method, we're basically doing photo shoot of the product on a plain white background. The reason we do that is so that we can remove the background at any point. You can do that with apps like Canva or remove.background, and it's very simple to do. After that, you have to get stock photos. Now, stock photos are available on any platforms like Shutterstock or Adobe Stock. Those are like paid versions because you have to pay for license to use those copyright-free images. Or you can also use a platform like Getty Images that will give you free access to stock images. And let's say if at the odd chance you're not able to find a suitable stock image, you can also now use websites that leverage AI to create different stock images for you from scratch. Once you have the backgroundless images of the product and you have the stock images, now you can create lifestyle images using something like Photoshop or Canva, which can merge them and basically give them your final designed images.
There's also the option of real life, which is what we typically think of when we think about product photography. This is where we showcase a real environment and a model. So, of course, you have to properly stage the product and with props to make it stand out and actually look appealing. Now, in here, a model can be hired to showcase the usage of the product in real life. We've seen a huge shift in brands using real life over stock. More than 70% of brands that partner with us opt for real life. And the main reason is because of the videos. Showcasing your product in use in a video format really helps the shoppers out in understanding how this works and how they can picture it in their life.
Great. And the third way to do the photo shoot is not actually a photo shoot. It's basically 3D rendering. It's a different way where you can visualize the product, or you have to create a product with photorealistic renders. The way this process works, if you're up for the challenge, is you create a 3D mockup of the product using its size, shape, color, and texture, and make that in a 3D model software. From there, you have to adjust it for different angles and throw some lighting and shadows on it just so that it mimics an exact photo shoot. And then using stock images, you put those 3D rendering files back into those images, and it basically almost looks like an actual photo shoot of the product.
Now, these images do not actually replace real life photography. And naturally, when somebody looks at them, you can tell that it's a 3D render. So 3D renders will not look 100% realistic. And to the natural eye, a buyer can see that this is a rendered image. But studies have shown that they still prefer this over real life photography. And this applies to only a few categories of renders. So when would you actually use a render? This might be for products where the material is reflective, whether that be plastic, metal, fabric even. Sometimes for packaging, it can arrive damaged, and so we recommend 3D rendering to get that perfect crisp look, or even bulky items that are difficult or costly to ship. You can take a few items of the photograph and it can be then rendered into a 3D model.
Great. Now let's talk about one last thing. We have all these amazing assets. How do we upload them on Amazon? So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that on Amazon while sharing my screen. Great. So now that you have all these amazing assets, you might be wondering, how do we upload them onto Amazon? Now there's going to be a whole different module that would take you through step by step on how to upload all these assets. But while you're doing that, I just want to quickly show you guys, when you are uploading your videos, now Amazon shows you exactly how many views you got from each and every video. And it also shows you the average duration of the video. So you can see exactly how much of the total video every shopper is watching and tweak it based off of that. Okay, so this is it for this video. I hope you found this information very useful. If you want to get in touch with us for any kind of creative work, you can find us on hub.helium10.com and search for AMZ One Step. Thank you for watching.